Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer because this one is absolutely chilling. I want you to imagine standing in front of a massive, heavy wooden door, one that literally hasn't been opened in over a decade. And behind it, just a darkness so profound that it actually feels heavy. Well, today we're opening a completely bizarre case file. We're going to explore a terrifying sequence of events, the rotting atmosphere inside a sealed college library, and how a late-night investigation into the unknown ended up unearthing a horrific, suppressed truth. So we're going to walk through this entire case step by step, right up to its pretty shocking conclusion. Let's get into it.
So picture the opening scene. It is exactly midnight. The entire college campus is just swallowed by darkness, completely dead quiet. 4 shadowy figures are standing right in front of the rusted, chained doors of the old third-floor library. And the second they manage to push those doors open, they are just instantly hit by this wall of foul, damp air. You know, that specific heavy smell of decaying paper and books that have been locked away for 12 straight years? That's what they're walking into. They step inside. The silence is absolutely deafening. Until, suddenly, the frantic, erratic clicking of an EMF meter cuts right through the dark. Tick, tick, tick. It's an unmistakable signal. They are absolutely not alone in this room.
But, we really need to ask, how did they even end up there in the first place? To get that, we have to understand the intense culture of fear at this specific college. Every campus has its lore, right? But this was different. This was an ironclad rule passed down, almost like a dark inheritance, from the seniors straight to the freshers. Do not go near the third-floor library, day or night. The crazy part is, there were no official warning boards, no memos from the administration, just this deep, unspoken dread. It was a generational panic that completely masked a truth literally nobody wanted to talk about.
Which brings up a really fascinating psychological question, doesn't it? Why are we so incredibly drawn to the exact things that terrify us the most? Well, meet Abhay. While everyone else on campus was totally paralyzed by the lore, Abhay was curious. Now, he wasn't completely fearless or anything, but he grew up listening to his grandfather, who happened to be a traditional village tantric, a spiritual healer. And his grandfather always drilled this one fundamental rule into him: understanding comes before fear. Abhay figured, hey, if a spirit is sticking around, it's there for a reason, an untold story, an unfinished truth. And he was absolutely determined to figure out what it was.
So that brings us to part 1, the forbidden third floor.
Abhay and his 3 friends actually decided to go straight to the top. They confronted the college principal, Dr. Sharma, and flat out asked for official permission to investigate the library. Obviously, the principal absolutely refuses. But in doing so, he lets slip this incredibly chilling timeline. First, 20 years ago, there was this initial unspoken tragedy, something the college buried deep. Then there's a huge gap in time. Fast forward to 12 years ago, a junior librarian named Shekhar is working the night shift and is found completely unconscious inside that room. When he finally wakes up, his eyes are just wide with terror, and he claims this unseen entity was literally watching him read. Right after that, he resigns and the administration seals the library shut. Dr. Sharma basically tells the students, go near it and you're immediately expelled.
All right, part 2, the paranormal investigation begins.
Now let's be real, the threat of expulsion wasn't going to stop them. Their mindset was basically, if the college won't let the truth out in the daylight, we'll just have to dig it up in the dark. So late at night, while the whole campus is dead asleep, a black car rolls up to the back gate. The students actually sneak in a professional paranormal investigator, Dr. Siddharth Mehta. And Dr. Mehta doesn't mess around. He's not walking in blindly. He brings a serious, rigorous toolkit. We're talking an electromagnetic field or EMF meter to catch energy spikes, thermal sensors to track random cold spots, digital audio recorders for picking up electronic voice phenomena, night vision cameras, and crucially, traditional elements too, like salt and candles for boundary protection. It's this brilliant mix of modern tech and ancient practice to capture the unknown.
Moving right into part 3, 3 Nights of Terror.
Once they actually crossed that threshold, what Dr. Mehta's team recorded was a highly documented, incredibly rapid escalation of events. The entity's behavior changed fast. Night 1, it starts with sudden EMF spikes in areas where there's literally no electrical wiring, and their flashlights just mysteriously dim and die. They actually have to retreat early. Night 2 is when the physical environment starts reacting. We're talking heavy textbooks suddenly launching themselves off the shelves one after another. And by night 3, the entity is just openly aggressive. They show up, and the locked, chained door is already wide open. Inside, These massive, heavy tables and chairs are violently scattered everywhere. The room temperature plummets, and the team is just hit with this absolute paralyzing dread.
And I have to mention something absolutely wild that happened during night 2 with their gear. One of the students, Rohan, pulls out his phone. He specifically notes it's at a healthy 20% battery. But in a matter of minutes, literally just minutes, as the paranormal activity peaks in the room, that battery violently drains to absolute zero. All of their phones just die, completely simultaneously. In paranormal investigations, this is considered a massive energy drain. It basically implies that an entity is literally pulling power straight from the environment so it can manifest.
But without a doubt, the most terrifying piece of evidence from that second night was on Dr. Metha's digital audio recorder. They're sitting there, playing back the audio to review the session, and right there, cutting through the static, they hear these very distinct, breathy whispers. The students just slowly look over at Dr. Metha, their blood running completely cold, and they tell him, "Sir, that voice is not ours." The entity was actively trying to communicate with them.
Which leads us to part 4, the haunting spreads.
So by the end of that third night, the team realizes they have made a massive, grave miscalculation. By forcing their way into the library, they didn't just quietly observe this entity, they completely woke it up. The containment was totally broken. The fear wasn't just stuck on the third floor anymore, it was spilling out. Students all over campus start reporting horrifying things. People are seeing unseen figures sitting on the last benches of totally empty classrooms, hearing disembodied footsteps pacing back and forth behind locked washroom doors, the really disturbing sound of a girl weeping in the dead of night, and shadowy silhouettes just staring out from the windows of the student hostels. The entire campus is suddenly gripped by an active, highly aggressive haunting.
Part 5. Uncovering the Dark Truth.
Things get so bad that the panicked administration finally has to step in. The principal summons the students and Dr. Metha, threatening them with the absolute worst consequences. But Dr. Metha pushes back. He says, "Look, the spirit is out. We can't just lock the door again. We have to figure out why it's so incredibly enraged." So he brings in a different kind of expert, Satyadev Baba, a highly respected tantric. Satyadev Baba walks into the library, immediately draws a protective line of salt, and gets to work. Instantly, the temperature in the room drops like a stone. The EMF meter just starts screaming. Baba speaks directly to the entity, realizing she isn't just trying to scare people, she is profoundly angry. And then, through the digital recorder, this incredibly clear, heartbreaking voice cuts through the heavy air. "Mujhe yahan bandh diya gaya." I have been tied here.
And through Baba's communication, this horrifying 20-year-old secret is finally dragged out into the open. And the contrast here is just staggering. The college's official, publicly accepted narrative. They claimed a librarian committed suicide in that room for unknown reasons. But the tragic reality that the spirit revealed? She was murdered. 20 years ago, she had tried to file a serious complaint against a very powerful professor, and to silence her, she was killed right there on the third floor. Her death was staged to look like a suicide. Because she was framed, she was entirely denied justice, and crucially, she was denied her proper final rights. That is exactly why her soul was trapped, bound in total agony to that rotting room for 2 decades.
Which brings us to our final chapter, Part 6, the final liberation.
Turns out, Abe's grandfather was spot on. The entity wasn't a monster. She was a victim who had been waiting 20 years just to be heard. Now that the truth was acknowledged, the team had to prepare for the most dangerous step of the whole journey. To give this trapped soul the peace she was so violently denied, Satyadev Baba used a very methodical process. First, establishing a massive protective boundary using salt. Second, the heavy, resonant chanting of ancient Sanskrit mantras to literally shift the energy of the room. Third, and this is so vital, validating the spirit by speaking her true story out loud so she knew she was heard. And finally, at exactly 2:30 a.m., right in the dead center of the haunted library, Baba performs a havan, a sacred fire ritual. He offers her name, fresh cloth, and water, formally completing the final rites that had been stolen from her.
And the moment that ritual wraps up, the shift in the room is instantaneous. That heavy, rotting, damp air just clears out. The suffocating dread that had been sitting on their chests completely evaporates. Dr. Mehta checks his equipment. There is total silence. The audio recorder isn't picking up whispers, just the normal, ambient quiet of the night. And the EMF meter, which had been going absolutely crazy for days, finally drops and rests completely at zero. The haunting was officially over. After 20 long years, the library was finally at peace.
Unpacking this case file leaves us with a really profound realization. It wasn't the darkness of that room that kept the spirit trapped there. It was the deafening silence of the people who covered up the truth. Which leaves us with this one final, rather unsettling thought to ponder. If spirits linger only because of suppressed truths and denied justice, how many untold stories are still silently haunting the everyday spaces right around us? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning everything, keep seeking the truth, and I will catch you in the next one.